What's it like kind of trying to bring something different to the fold with the Fatal Five and with Mano, maybe somebody that hasn't been heard of a lot before?
It's for lack of a better, it's just life changing. It's such a thrill. Somebody asked me earlier, have I seen the movie? And I was like, yeah, of course. We got sent a link before anybody else gets to see it, and you get to see the final project. I mean, I've done a whole bunch of like video games and played really good characters with the cinematic parts and just characters doing the mocap and stuff like that, but not a lot of animation. So for me, this is a real treat to play like a quasi-iconic villain character in the DC universe, and then to just have someone say, what are you bringing to the table with it, Phil? And then it's like, well, I think he's this. What do you guys think? And they're like, that's spot on. Your interpretation is exactly what we're looking for. And then it's just like, oh, well, that's it. Everything is right and cool with the world now. But like I told somebody else, they were like, well, where did you draw from? And I said I looked at some of the descriptions in the comic books, and then when they were showing me a couple of the prints of what the character in this particular Justice League movie was going to look like, then you sort of like put two and two together, and you look at his dialogue and you look at his description, and what came to mind with the voice, which ultimately translates to the voice, was Ricardo Montalban, specifically in Star Trek Wrath of Khan, or Space Seed, if you're talking about the original series. And then like the other 50% was my dad, rest his soul, who was not unlike Ricardo Montalban, coming from Puerto Rico. He had a little bit of an accent and stuff like that. But it was just a flavor that I was looking for. It was just like there was a dark broodiness about him, even though he doesn't really have like facial expressions. He's got this dome on this somewhat nondescript face with featureless face, which makes it even harder.
Yeah,
to,
I can imagine.
To interpret that, and then you really have to like dig deep into the darkest realms of someplace to come up with something. And you take a deep breath. You speak into the mic. Is that what you're looking for? Yep, spot on. Let's do it. And then you're just like, I'm in heaven. And then you feel good about it, because then you not only like please the powers that be and the producers of the project and the director, but you've also like paid homage to my dad, who was a big hero of mine when he was alive and passed too, and then another iconic actor who I was a big fan of because of his movies and the things that he did and stuff, and it's just all one big gigantic tasty soup.
So not Fantasy Island, Montalban.
I love Fantasy
I do
Island.
too.
Are you kidding me? I just like I grew
Not
up
as
with
menacing
that.
though.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a big jump.
Yeah.
A big jump from like the white suit with the black tie to like having like the body of Adonis and like the neck of like a turkey. Just like wow, this guy is like on top of it. So yeah, it's kind of nice to draw something like that.
So there's a little bit of a debate based on something that another cast member may or may not have told us. Who is the leader of the Fatal Five?
Oh, see, no, I can't tell you that. Because that's definitely a spoiler. Well, I'll leave it at this. Everyone's going to say that they're the leader, as is typical for villains. Especially like villain teams. It's like, no, I don't think so. I'm the leader.
Yeah.
And it's why they ultimately end up losing, because they're fighting amongst themselves. So I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough.
What did you learn about the character while working on it?
About Mano specifically? Oh, gosh. He's a man of few words. Literally and figuratively, at least as it pertains to this particular project. Without giving too much away, I kind of like that my character has these kind of like stingery Arnold Schwarzenegger type one-liners. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger would have like no chains and I'll be back and all that stuff. He's got like those real zingery one-liners. Well, Mano is like not too dissimilar from that, so that's kind of fun. But he's a man of few words. Thinks he's getting the job done. Doesn't beat around the bush. Knows what the task at hand is and goes right to it. So yeah, that's sort of what I learned about it.
Were you not familiar with him before you got the role?
No, and I knew of Mano, And then when I found out that I was being considered for the role, and then ultimately, obviously, when I got it, that I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta do some studying on this. You know, I'm very astute with the Marvel and DC universe as it pertains to comics, but that was one that I was like, okay, so wait, he does this, and then I had to really do some background work on it. So, yep, there was homework for me when I did that, and which even is a little bit like pleasantly a surprise when you're just like, you think the expert who's going to know everything about the character, front, hand, and back, is going to get the role, and it's like, no, you're still creating something, even though there's detailed bios or description as to what he's all about. You still got to bring something unique to the table. So, but yeah, I had to do a lot of studying and find out what his powers were, what his origins were, and where he comes from, and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Run with that. So, homework for Phil for sure.
When you said he was a man of few words, did you feel like when you saw that you're like, okay, now I need to bring it for each and everything that I do? Did you kind of have a little bit of that pressure on you?
Yeah. From a dialogue perspective, when you have zippy, zingery little one-liners, it's very easy to look at it and say like, well, I got nothing. I don't know what to do with this. So yeah, it's hard when you have like a simple thing of just saying stop, or something like that. It's like there's a gazillion ways you could do that, depending on what the scene or the storyline calls for. So in some ways it can be really challenging, but then you can't overthink it either. So it's a real fine line. But yeah, you got to be on your toes when you have little one-liners here and there, and not think too much about it. Yeah. And that's hard. It's not easy, but that's what we do as actors, and that's where the work comes in. You really got to think, and the good thing is when you're actually doing a recording session, you may or may not know this, but the director in the scene will have you do at the most 3, but it's typically like 2 takes of a line, and then they'll take the best A or B, sometimes C if they're like, okay, complete turnaround, let's do this version of line, and that'll be line C, and then that's what they do. So you do different versions of it, so you give them a variety, and then they decide at a later time when they're animating it and stuff like that, which one fits when they actually see the finished product and they've got actual animation on the screen, And then every once in a while, sometimes it's just completely wrong or whatever, for whatever reason, or they've changed something. And then, the actors get brought in back to the booth to do like a complete line change or a tweak or an adjustment, and that's very common too. And then you have to do more thinking. It's like, did we just do like two or 3 versions of this? What more do you need? And it's like, oh, we're changing the scene, Phil. Okay, let's do it.
That first take or two, is it usually what you're bringing to it, or is it based on their direction, and then they let you have a take, or
a little bit of both?
Switch?
A little bit of both. Sometimes they just, and they just. The good thing about creative teams, with animation in particular, is that they're most of the time, they like to trust their actors. Actors who know they've done this sort of stuff before, and they'll chime in if they're just like, I got another take on it, try this, but it's always like a collaboration of sorts, And then there's stuff that's very specific with regard to how it needs to be said. You're yelling across a room, so you can't be saying like, "Hey, come over here." It has to be like, "Hey, come over here." You have to project more, and you need that guidance because, like I said, we don't have the luxury of having the script a week or so in advance. When we go into a session, that's the first time we're seeing it. So we have to say, okay, so what's going on here? And then they'll say, okay, so in this scene, they're landing on a distant planet, and as soon as the doors open up, they're come upon by a horde of like angry aliens or something like that. And so they have to describe these things to you and say, oh, okay, all right, great. And then you sort of do the little thinking about how you would interpret that, and then you give a couple of different versions. So, and then sometimes it's very clear, like he's angry, tell him to come back, say come back. It's as simple as that. But context is everything. Sometimes, most of the time, you need a lot of help with regard to what story you're telling from the creators and the powers that the writers are there saying, telling you what storyline is all about, and then the director's there to sort of direct you with your interpretation of what your voice is trying to say.
Great.
Is there a specific clash that Mano has with a hero in this movie that you're super excited for people to see?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you about it though because that's another spoiler.
There it is.